this past weekend, you actually got to check out the LIV Golf in person, and that's something, golf is what introduced us over at the Golf Hall of Fame. Been friends since, and was very interested to hear what you thought of LIV.
Yeah, no, it was a very good experience. I went to the event down in Orlando, and so much talk about LIV over the past year and a half, I guess now, and I was interested to get a chance to check it out in person, and yeah, it was a very positive experience. I mean, I was impressed by a lot of what they were doing. I think the execution of the event was, I thought very high level. I mean, for a golf fan, I don't think you would notice much difference between the execution at a LIV event and a PGA Tour event or any other professional tour. It's definitely got a little bit more of a festival atmosphere, I would say. There's loud music. There's, kind of a big fan village with simulators and putting greens and chipping and cornhole and craft areas for kids. So
much more of a party.
Yeah, definitely a heavy emphasis on kind of the overall atmosphere and kind of making it feel a little less maybe stuffy that you would think as at a golf tournament. But you had, like I said, loud music throughout the course, and an audience that, from what I gathered, talking to some people with LIV, about a third or so of the fans who are attending these LIV events have never played golf or never attended a golf event.
Really?
So this is kind of their first experience with golf, and in a lot of ways, I think it's going to be a very positive one, because if you're not super familiar with the game and that's your first experience, definitely not an intimidating environment they've created, welcoming, and the product on the course. I think to the average or even knowledgeable golf fan, I mean, it's very high level golf. I don't think you would look at that and say it doesn't stack up or doesn't look like professional golf. I mean, I think the biggest difference is the guys were wearing shorts, but other than that, in terms of the way they play, it's super high end.
It's interesting. We had Fred Biletnikoff on the show last week, and Fred's a Pro Football Hall of Famer, but he came up in the era where the AFL and the NFL were separate. He got drafted to both leagues, and he decided to go with the AFL's Raiders because he felt like the Rebel League was more fun, more cutting edge. And he compared this whole situation going on between LIV and PGA to the AFL versus NFL. You see any similarities there?
Yeah, I think so. I think the biggest question I think I still have about all of this is, is golf a big enough sport to sustain, two tours or leagues that are ultimately, in some form, they're inevitably going to be competing with each other.
Right.
And so that's kind of the question. I mean, golf is a niche sport, so can it sustain two? I think that's still to be seen. I think there's some really interesting elements to LIV Golf's approach that I've kind of, as I've learned more about how how the format's going to be. I mean, the idea of team play, like you said, we've known each other for a while and both have a lot of experience in golf. It's definitely different. And so if you've been around golf a lot, it's not what you're used to. We're just so accustomed to stroke play. But the more I got to thinking about it, if you're talking about a third of the people never having any experience with golf, the idea of introducing them to the sport as golf being a team event, that's very familiar to just a typical sports fan. That's what, especially as Americans, that's what we know as team sports.
Right.
So it's not a stretch to think that it's going to be hard to get them to comprehend golf as a team sport. So the more I've kind of thought about that and started to even on site see it roll out, I think that's a kind of attractive and a unique element of LIV Golf. And I know that it's one that they're going to really lean into is kind of the evolution and kind of growth of these, right now 12 franchises. I think they're talking about, potentially growing those to maybe another 3 or 4. So that concept, it's kind of intriguing. And I thought they do a good job on site of explaining it to the fans.
Oh, do they? They talk about like how the whole team thing works?
Yeah, they do. They've got these giant video boards that they've kind of got some on-course reporters who come up there and give updates. Uh, and throughout, there were several times, even like in the first couple hours out there, a couple different times they kind of talk, and they've got some good graphics of how the team competition works. And it's not complicated, so it doesn't take a whole lot of explaining. But they did a good job of kind of making it clear that the 48 players in the field are all playing as individuals to try to win the individual prize money, but they're all part of a team, which it did kind of add a different dynamic later in the day when a guy who's, in 40th place out of 48, every one of his shots still matters because it's counting towards the overall team competition.
Interesting, because in my head I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking that the guy that's in the lead, like Brooks is in the lead, his team's automatically going to win. So I'm thinking it's just like kind of a storyline going on in the background, but it is every man on the team. It's very important how they play.
Yeah, and there's, it's been well reported, but there's serious money out there that these guys are playing for. So, it doesn't really, I think there's a lot of talk about, is it more of an exhibition? I think it's got a different feel if you're familiar with the PGA Tour and other, the European Tour, other professional events. It's got a different feel just because of the environment created with the music and the guys wearing shorts. So from that standpoint, it just feels different.
Are their calves? Are their calves very distracting?
Are the what? The calves?
Their calf muscles?
Only on Phil's. Only Phil's. No, but once the play is starting, as the day progresses on Sunday, especially, the amount of money that is at stake, not just for the individual winners, but the team prize element.
Brodie hung up on us mid-interview, and that's what happens when you start talking. Oh, the phone got too hot. Phone got too damn hot to handle. That's what's going on right here. So I got to put that down in the shade to cool off. Brodie just came on the show and broke the show.